Welcome to another edition of the Stack Supplement Podcast, where we run down all of the top stories and exciting announcements shared on our website from the past 7 days. I do apologize for last week's episode. It was a hell of a week with Black Friday, Thanksgiving, and everything that was going on in between all of that. The episode was actually recorded. However, there was no sound attached to it, and I just could not be, it was pushing for time. So I thought everyone would be okay. But we're back this week. In fact, like I said, we were still there last week. It just didn't go up. Hopefully the audio works this time. We'll find out, yes or no. So yeah, we're going to kick things off with a bit of admin coming from the Protein Wars, which is still going strong as ever. We had an intense first opening round. We then went on to the quarterfinals, which I did talk about last week, and now it's to the semifinals, and we have got a pretty interesting lineup this year. To be honest, the one thing that always happens, and everyone always says this with these competitions, even with Clash of the Cans, was that they're always surprised at who makes it through, and it's always very interesting because look, we're not going to get, if you had the biggest of bigs, let's just say, based on, I guess, the size of the companies, you got Optimum's one of the biggest in the world. But I think they've only ever made it to the final, like the semifinals. I don't think they've ever been in the grand final. Dymatize is another heavy hitter. So it's always these protein powders that are loved by hardcore fans of protein powders and supplements in general. And so you get these these supplements that I guess you love, that are loved by hardcore users that would, they may have started with this and that, but they've ended up with this because of the flavor, the formula, maybe the extras that they've got in the product. Either way, they've mixed it up a little, and it's pretty cool to see the guys that make it. And I think the winners that we've had over the years reflect that. The first ever winner was Cellucore's Core Whey, which was one of the core performance series they had back in the day. It was won by Machine Whey from MTS Nutrition. Man Sports ISO won. NutriBio's Whey Isolate took a title. Ghost Whey won 1 year. Who else? Pro Gym took it 1 year. And so, and the thing is, it's a bracket ladder start competition. So it does come down to who you're up against. You could have all the past champions on one side of the ladder that all knock each other out, and someone could just have a stellar final round that may never have made it that far before. So it's got this cool, fun element to it. And this year, we've got a bit of that. We've got two semi-finalists that have never been this far before. We've got Muscle Sport, Lean Whey, and Panda Fuel, but they are up against two past champions, and they are taking them on separately. So if this was randomized and ended up the other way, could have been quite interesting, where you could have had Ghost and Rise taking each other out, and then Panda and Muscle Sport taking each other out. But Muscle Sport, I'm trying to remember exactly who's taking who. We've got Rise loaded protein is taking on Muscle Sports Lean Whey, and then Ghost Whey is taking on Panda and Fuel protein. So it is very much past champions on brands that have never actually made it to the semifinals. So it's very, very close race, very intricate, very interesting, and definitely stay locked in. Visit proteinwars.com to get your votes in. But we're now going to get to the update side. I should also mention, before we get into the update news roundup, we will have more of the exhibitors for the Stack Pavilion at the Arnold Sports Expo. I think we missed one last week just because it ended up on Thanksgiving, and we didn't want to ruin that or keep the excitement from that announcement, muddled in with that. It's going to be a pretty full-on. I think we're pretty much full out. We might just cap it where it is. We might extend it. We're trying to make sure it's not as stressful as last year, but still quality brands. And I believe we have that all locked in. So stay tuned for that. And the winners of our Brand of the Year, category by category, will be announced. I think we actually should start this week to finish by the end of the year, at least if we want to finish by the end of the year. So you might see one of those out this week, maybe next week. And then we always end the actual year or the new year with the overall Brand of the Year winner. But yeah, we're going to get straight into it with the biggest stories shared from last week. And we're going to start with news from HTLT, Greg Doucette's brand, harder than last time. They came out with a new high stimulant pre-workout. Now this was, as we were writing this story, it started making more sense. So the name is Hardcore, or Hardcore 3D, however you want to pronounce it. And it is a high stim pre. Now, we thought it was an all new high stim pre, but as I started reading it more, put the pieces together, I think this is the sequel to, what is it, their Hardcore Stim or their Hardcore Stim pre-workout. Guess you could put it together. I didn't really think of it, but that product is at version 2 right now. And now we've got Hardcore 3D, which I'm gathering is kind of like the 3rd version, hence the 3D. Not why we call it ourselves Stack3d or Stacked, nor why you get these supplements with 3D in the name. But I think that's what it is meant to mean here. But that hasn't stopped them from juicing this thing out. The formula is very alike the previous Hardcore Stim from HTLT as well. So it kind of made sense when we pieced it all together. But you get 4 grams of beta-alanine, 1.5 taurine, and those are realistically the only things that aren't for energy and focus. But again, this is called Hardcore 3D or Hardcore Stim. So it is a high intensity potent pre-workout. In that side, we've got DMAE, erythritol, saffron, alpha-GPC, huperzine, uridine, which is very uncommon but reliably effective nootropic. Theobromines in there as well. And the caffeine, of course, is surprisingly at 300 milligrams. Now, I will note, for a hardcore Stim pre-workout, 300 is definitely on the low side for a hardcore Stim. 300 to 400 is your typical range for a stimulant pre-workout, but with that name hardcore attached, usually you see closer to the 400s plus. But I will note that I don't think that this is going to lack in intensity, mostly because the erythritol is at 750. Now, it's a little bit tricky to, I've had good workouts, high intensity with various dosages, but 750 is definitely at the higher end of the scale. Typically, it's lower hundreds. This is, 750 is on the high side, so I suspect that that's probably going to add a lot more to the sensory effect than the caffeine, although the caffeine will definitely have a impact at 300 milligrams. But you can check out the full formula on the site and pick it up. During the Black Friday sale, I believe it was down to $31.50, as everything was, not everything, I think maybe there was everything. It was 30% off of that particular product, so I bought it down by a fair amount. So it should be back up to $44.99, which is still not too bad. But if you know HTLT, they don't do the 40-20 split. I should point that out. They do a 40-20 split, and they started doing it. I'm not sure what was the first supplement they did it on, but they do a 40-20 and then an additional one. So back in Jack3d days or Jacked days, you had 15 maximum servings. It was a 45, 30, 15. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Or was it 60, 30? Either way. I think that's right. 45, 30, 15 maximum was 3 servings, I believe. So you get somewhat of that here, but you get 40 beginner servings, you could say, 20 intermediary, and if that's a word, and then you get 13 full-on servings. So if you want those maximum dosages, the 750 erythritol, 300 caffeine, the 4 grams of beta-alanine, and you got taurine in there as well, you're going to be getting 13 servings. So it slims at $44.99. That definitely alters the value of it, but you can check it out for yourself, weigh up the options and see if it's something that appeals to you. At $31.50, it made a lot more sense. But yeah, moving on due to the immense amount of Black Friday drops that we had, and we had a lot of them. We got one from the team at Miracle Labs, not arguably the most patriotic supplement company in our industry, of course, named Miracle Labs, and it's proudly put that out there ever since the beginning. So they came out with a new version of Stars and Pipes. Although, just if you're a classic fan, you will remember the product was originally called Stars in Pipes. And by that I mean, it was spelled with the N and the whatever. So it was Stars and Pipes, but abbreviated type thing. Now, they have returned with a new version of Stars and Pipes, but it is indeed and. So no more Stars and Pipes. Very finicky details. It is what it is. But they have given the product that awesome custom illustration graphics that they have on their other supplements. A few of them right now, but they've got characterized and just intensely drawn past presidents. And they revamped it. And I say revamped lightly because the formula, and I like that this is what they've done. So over the years, Miracle Labs has moved about, chopped and changed. But if you remember when it originally came out, it was fat dosages, few ingredients, fat dosages. That was kind of the core, and no pun intended, but that was what set it apart from Core Nutritionals. America is from the same team as Core Nutritionals as well as Unmatched, and so it was a nice differentiating factor. For Core, you got a variety of ingredients, and effective, highly effective dosages, whereas Miracle was fewer ingredients, but just stupid, over-the-top, intense amounts. I wouldn't necessarily say that changed throughout the years, but it definitely varied compared to what we originally got with a lot of their supplements. Now we've got Stars and Pipes returning, and that was, in the beginning, it was a great example of exactly what I just said, fat dosages of reliable ingredients. Now last week, they have returned to that with 6 grams of straight citrulline, 5 grams of hydroprime glycerol, and those two features were what you got in the very first Stars and Pipes. So I like how they just basically harked back to the original, and gave you a little bit of that original taste of Miracle Labs. Now, to make it a little bit different, they've also added electrolyte sources, peak ATP. So now it's not just a pump pre-workout; it is a stackable pump and performance pre-workout, because there are still no stimulants. And then to top it all off, you get an effective 50 milligrams of estrogen to enhance uptake and absorption, as well as efficacy of the components. So a nice job. I just liked how they went back. They returned to their original, and they've gone back to just, again, what we got in that very first Stars and Pipes, with the badass artwork that Miracle Labs has been rolling out piece by piece. And in fact, I will say that all of these stories, as I just noticed, are very much Black Friday drops. So continuing that theme, and by Black Friday drops, I mean products that released during Black Friday or for Black Friday. And so next up, we got Bucked Up, who came out with, they had a couple things last week. They had that mystery flavor series, but here we're going to be talking about creatine gummy bucks. So this is Bucked Up's approach to the creatine gummy category. This has been something that's kind of exploded and kind of made sense. Over the past couple years, we've seen a much bigger interest in creatine, and I think a lot of it comes from the normality, just making it a little more known. And to be honest, like back when we first started getting into the industry, creatine was still it was known, but it was still like the supplement hardcore ingredient, and protein was that kind of thing that everyone knew and it was okay to have. It seems that creatine's, over the last decade or so, has edged into that realm where now it's like, it's creatine. Like, I know what creatine is, it's for muscle and strength. Like, it's okay. And to the extent that now we've got these different flavors, you've got formats that are more approachable and more appealing. And over the past couple of years, we've seen almost an explosion in flavored creatine, better value creatine, alternative advanced creatine supplements, and which kind of you could have assumed was going to lead to functional things. You've got creatine protein bars now and creatine gummies, which Bucked Up is now taking part in with creatine gummy bucks. And I like their little twist. They've given you 5 grams of creatine full 5 grams of creatine in a serving of 4 gummies. I'm not a huge fan when they do the gummies and then they say, hey, full, 30 servings, and the serving's like 2 grams or 3 grams, because obviously you can't fit as much in a gummy as you can a pill, or definitely a powder. But like, I'm not a big fan of when you get these avenues to take, like a capsule, and be like, hey, it's 30 servings for the same price as a powder, but the serving's now 2 grams. Have it as what you want, but I don't like inconsistencies. When you got 5 grams in your powder, make sure it's the same. It is what it is. I'm not calling anyone out. But Bucked Up has kept it consistent. I like that they've said, hey, 5 grams of creatine in 4 gummies. And it is as far as I know, they're buck-shaped. Of course, it's Bucked Up. They do what they do. You get 24 servings per bag, which I believe that should work out to 24, 96 gummies per pouch. So 24 servings, enough to last you just shy of a month, give or take, 3.5 weeks. And they come in, I think there's quite a few flavors, if I'm not mistaken. Tropic Thunder, Knockout Punch, Blue Blast, Melon Madness, and Raspberry Blitz. During Black Friday, they were $18.48 a piece, which is a damn good deal if you get in on it. So yeah, next up, we're just going to jump straight through it because there is quite a few missing out here. We're going to roll on over to the team at Steel Supplements. And we always refer to these guys as a hardcore brand because that's very much what they are. They've always kind of had that hardcore edge. And they came out with a couple things just in time for Black Friday. Firstly, they released 3 new flavors for their Omni energy drink, which debuted with 3, essentially doubling the size of the menu, which is no easy feat. I applaud anyone who expands their energy drink applaud any supplement company that goes to the depths of an energy drink. It's not an easy path to go down, but more importantly, add flavors as frequently as some can. It's very impressive. So they launched it with 3 flavors earlier this year, I think it was. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Maybe it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. There's 3 flavors, very intriguingly named, with Stoked, Corsa, and Beach Day. Now they have come out with 3 flavors that are a little more descriptive in their names. There is one called Georgia, then you have Island Gold, and Pineapple Mix. Now, Island Gold is indeed a tropical fruit punch, you could say. Then Pineapple Mix is very much a pineapple, and Georgia, you could, if you see the graphics, it'll make sense, but it is a Georgia peach. So again, very much more self-explanatory than Beach Day and Corsa, but those have rolled out. They were just in time for the Black Friday sale at Steel, but then they also dropped a pre-workout RTD. Now, the formula had me thinking this might have been a shot, and it wasn't until I pieced together the contents that I was like, okay, this isn't a shot. This is an actual RTD. I think it's an 8-ounce bottle, and basically you get some pretty solid ingredients in all of these. They have, I'm just going to try and bring it up on here right now. So they have a full set of, it's an advanced formula. It's not your comprehensive pump, performance, energy focus thing. And that was why we were kind of like, is this an energy shot? So I'm going to rattle off the highlights for you. They've got caffeine at 300 milligrams, green tea 230, epimediums at 40 milligrams, alpha-yohimbine, and then you've got a variety of vitamins and minerals. And so it's not, again, that in itself that's what had me thinking it was a shot, but it is in fact an RTD. They come in 8 ounces, an 8-ounce bottle, so it is a full drink. But there are 2 versions. So the RTD itself is called Revit Energy, or I guess Revit, spelled R-E-V-I-T. And there are 2 versions. There's just regular Revit, I think it's Revit Energy and then Revit Extreme. Now they both have the exact same ingredients. Again, bringing together the alpha-yohimbine, the caffeine, the green tea. The differentiating factor is that the other one has 300 and then the extreme version has 375. So it's very much like a nice balance, I guess you could say, of just sensory, energy, and focus ingredients. And then you have a little bit more caffeine in the extreme version. And I will also note that it is 75 milligrams more, but then in addition to the 75 extra caffeine, which is I think 25% more if you're looking for percentages, they also added 25 milligrams of theanine, which obviously, if you're not familiar, it kind of helps smooth the energy effect out. So it is a more extreme version, but then it has like a softening touch to it. So yeah, it was a busy Black Friday for the team at Steel. 3 new flavors for their drink, and then you had the 2 RTDs, so adding to their lineup pretty extensively. Next up, we're going to jump over to, I'm trying to think who we got next. We'll round out with these 2. So we're going to jump over to Alpha Line, who had a new superhuman supplement out. So superhuman, I guess, has become somewhat of the C4 of Alpha Line. So you had Cellucor, C4 was under Cellucor, then it kind of became a monster on its own. Alpha Line has superhuman, and that has become a monster on its own as well. They rebranded several supplements to that superhuman naming a few years ago, I think. And they've added a few more since, and now they've got Superhuman Jacked. Now, not all of the superhuman supplements are pre-workouts, but this one is. And it's actually quite an interesting twist because there are a few hybrid pre-workouts on the market. Most of them are hybrid in the sense that you get weight loss and pre-workout, or pre-workout and thermogenic, or whatever it is. That's typically the way to go. There are a few test boosting ones out there where you'll get maybe a dose of DAA or Tribulus or Ashwagandha, the like. Now, this is a muscle building version, hence the name Superhuman Jacked. However, they haven't gone the testosterone boosting route. They have opted for muscle builders, like just, I guess, non-testosterone type muscle builders in combination with a few components, including citrulline malate, HMB. Even HMB has a bit of a muscle building approach to it, more recovery muscle building. And then there's also betaine, taurine, tyrosine, choline, and caffeine. So they cover all your bases in terms of pump, performance, energy, and focus. And alongside that, as I said, you've got HMB. Then you have a full 5 grams of creatine, so a typical common muscle building ingredient. There's also, the HMB that I was saying. And then on top of that, they have Peptide Strong, a full 2.4 gram dose of the AI muscle building Peptide Strong, which has increased in popularity since it kind of was first seen under Glaxon. branched out to several supplements. There are a few that do, I've seen a standalone one, but here you've got it in a pre-workout and at a full dose. And I like that they did that. That Superhuman Jacked wasn't just a sprinkling of this, a sprinkling of that. Alpha Lion has given you full dosages of creatine, HMB, peptide strong, and it's taken that approach where it's not the testosterone boosting route. Not that that's a problem, but I just like how they did it differently. And it's just a great way to get in some of these daily muscle builders in combination with a pre-workout. Given the formula on the pre-workout side isn't as jacked, no pun intended, as we've seen, but it hits all the notes. For people that won't mind a touch of this and a touch of that for in exchange for the muscle building support, it's a pretty robust formula. And the ingredients that they have on those other dimensions for performance pumps and so on aren't at all underwhelming. You've got the citrulline malate at 9 grams, tyrosine's 2 grams, the choline is 1 gram, and then you get 200 milligrams of caffeine yield from the 2-scoop maximum serving. So it's a pretty well-rounded formula on that side, and it's just done a nice balance of bringing it all together. The last story we have, and this touches pretty much almost very similar factor, but on the maximum premium side. We have Infinis Nutrition we have another story coming out on this later this week, but so UXO, you may remember, came out with a 49 gram serving pre-workout, and it broke the record, I guess the unspoken record, of the biggest serving size in a pre-workout. And I believe the previous one was 48 grams. And I'm pretty sure that was from Muscle Elements pre-creep from back in the day. So UXO did 49 grams. I don't know if they were intentionally trying to top it by a gram, but they did. So Infinis Nutrition has been unveiling pre-workout, supplements from the past week or so. And they finished that run of 8 all-new supplements with a product called Infinite Pre. Now, they did also unveil a few other things, but this was kind of saved for the end because it is one of the most stacked pre-workouts the brand has done. And it is also not replacing its original, also stacked, Ultra pre-workout. This has been sold alongside it as somewhat of a different pre-workout experience. Still similarly premium, I guess similar to some of the other brands that have those 2 high-end pre-workouts out there. These offer different experiences. This is considered to be more of a intense high stim experience or just more stimulating experience, I guess. And it's stacked, but it has a 50 gram serving size. So it topped UXO by 49. And people did point out that it has 14 grams of fillers. Now, we have something explaining this because I think 14 grams of fillers, if the serving was 10 grams, I can imagine is pretty juicy. But when a couple of people asked, and then we asked the brand, he very simply said, he's like, it's kind of, we have a similar scale in our smaller servings. Like in his Ultra pre-workout, he said it's a similar jump. Their more cost-effective Cosmic Pre, he said similar jump. And to that point, like I guess when you say there's this many fillers, it does sound like a lot, but I guess it's due to scale really. Like if you have a pre-workout that's 10 grams of actives and 10 grams of fillers, that is a lot. That's a 20 gram serving. However, this is 2.5 times that at a 50 gram serving. So I guess I think people were just shocked by the number, but we do forget sometimes that at 50 grams, as a juicy son of a bitch, the biggest pre-workout serving, non-carb pre-workout, I should say, that I've seen. And his explanation did kind of make sense. And he mentioned a few other brands that was like, well, these guys have 12 or 13, but kind of said anything. And it's a very valid point. And again, I guess it's just because it's like, hey, Shining Star, 50 gram serving, and then you say 14, okay. But either way, we'll put a little explanation. Now, just because a few people asked and they were like, is this actually how many? And I guess you wouldn't, their explanation is that you scale the fillers. It's not necessarily like we added more actives, we have to add more of this type thing. Not, hey, we have 5 grams of fillers at a tiny soup. We also still have 5 grams at the higher amount. So that was the explanation that they provided, which I think is worth people just hearing because there are some people thought maybe the serving number was wrong, maybe the label was incorrect. Either way, it's not. That's just what it is. It is what it is. But please do not let that take away. With the monumental amount of ingredients they have jammed into this thing, and I'm going to rattle them off one by one because while I did say Infinis's Infinite Pre is a juiced up son of a bitch, that's more on the intensity side than Ultra pre-workout. They have, I'll just go over them. So for pumps, you get 10 grams of straight citrulline. Then there's 2 grams each of NO3T arginine nitrate, betaine nitrate. Then 3 grams of betaine, a double dose of beta-alanine at 6.4, 2 grams of taurine, a double dose at the gram of vasodrive. I say a gram, it's 1,016 milligrams. Himalayan sea salt is in there as well. And then you pretty much have, I guess, that driving force behind the claim that this is a little more intense than ultra pre-workout. So in addition to, again, just because I said them fast, please don't miss them. 4 grams of NO3T nitrates is a beast next to 10 grams of citrulline. Again, then on top of all of this, you get a double dose of cognizin at 500 milligrams. 500 milligrams of the higher yield Genius Pure Alpha GPC. 300 milligrams of uridine. 300 milligrams of theobromine. Dynamine's in there at 250. Advantrazine at 100. Estrogen to help with absorption and efficacy at 50 milligrams. Huperzine at 200 micrograms. 3 grams of tyrosine. And then obviously the caffeine, I think that's a double. Yeah, you got 300 anhydrous. And then 100 of Infinis dicaffeine malate, which means you're probably looking at, I think Infinis is 75%. So that's what? 375, just shy of 400 milligrams of caffeine. But with everything else that's in there, holy shit. It worked out to like, I think 35 plus grams of actives. It's a beast. It's huge. And again, to hit a serving size that amount and that amount of actives, 30 plus actives, and not have things like aminos and creatine and carbs, which don't get me wrong, they work, they're great, they're effective. But when thrown in to kind of add to the actives, it's kind of distorts it sometimes. Whereas here you've got close to 40, and Jesus, she's a beast. So kudos to them for putting together a second premium pre-workout and just, I guess, formulating with that difference compared to ultra pre-workout. And so all of those new supplements rolled out in time for Black Friday. Hopefully you got it on a sale because it was quite extensive. There's a 30% off, I believe. It was pretty substantial, and all of their supplements are out there. But for this episode, that is it. That's going to do it for this past week. As always, all we ask for support is just go to the website, follow on social, like, share, check it out every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. Share with your mom, your dad, brother, and your sister, niece, nephew, grandma, grandpa, whatever. That's all we ask. That's all we will ever need to continue to keep everyone informed. But for this week, that is it. Thank you for listening, and look forward to having you back next time.